This is Rosaria, the 4-star cryo polearm user. Now, we don't really have much information on her at the moment. However, I thought that since we have her base stats and also her constellations, we can generally see if she's going to be a support, a DPS, or a sub DPS. So as you can see, we don't have any talent information at the moment. However, we do have some basic constellation information. However, this stuff is subject to change, so keep that in mind. She does have a pretty high base attack right here at 261, comparing that to Zhongling right here at 225, who is more of a support. Of course, she wouldn't have as high of a base attack. And also Zhongli, which is another support, but he's a 5-star, he has 251. Rosaria has about 10 base attack more than Zhongli does. That also means that you can run attack percentage artifacts at a higher reward, because then you're getting more out of that because you're scaling off of her base attack more so. Comparing that to Xiao, however, she is not necessarily going to be a main DPS. However, she is still a 4-star, so keep that in mind. Xiao has a 325 base attack, so he's going to actually be a DPS 5-star. I personally think that she's actually going to be a DPS to her constellations at the moment. However, these can change, and I think they will change at some point, or get a little bit more information or more things to do with them. So for the first constellation, Keen Eye, crit hits increase Rosaria's normal attack speed by 10% for 3 seconds. So that's going to be able to refresh, which is nice, because then you're not just stuck with having to hit it every 3 seconds. So usually when this is on characters, you usually see them as a character that is on the field a lot as a DPS. So that is a sign that she probably will be a DPS. However, second constellation right here extends duration of elemental burst by 4 seconds. So it's 2 additional strikes. This kind of leads me to believe that she's going to be somewhat of a sub DPS also, because she's going to be able to get her ability on the field and leave it there for a few seconds. And 4 seconds seems like a pretty good buff. This might not actually be a 4-second buff. What this might actually be on paper when the actual launch gets here is a percentage bonus, like with Zhongling's 4th constellation that gives her 40% extra duration on her Pyronado. So for 4th constellation, weak spot tracker, so if you get crits with her elemental skill, it's going to restore 4 energy, which is good because on top of that, elemental skills usually create elemental orbs. However, if you are using characters like Chi-Chi doesn't create any of her own elemental orbs because her E hits multiple times, so it doesn't create any orbs unless you have Constellation 1 on her. So usually on characters like that, you want to run high energy recharge and also like a Favonius weapon or something like that. However, I think on Rosaria, if you have Constellation 4, this could be very good for just general sub DPS or support, because you're going to be creating a lot of orbs. So in theory, she could be very good for team building with other cryo characters. And for our last one right here, increases your elemental burst damage by 10% against enemies affected by cryo. So that is going to be pretty good, because usually with characters that do damage over time, if she gets any procs on enemies, she's actually going to be doing 10% extra damage for the rest of her super there. As for weapons, there are several good options. Now all the 5-star ones are excellent options, like some of them increase attack percent, crit rate, energy recharge. Energy recharge is something that I think you would want to go for if she is a sub DPS or a support. A lot of these also increase your auto attack damage, which could be good because your base attack is higher than other 4-stars. Another really good option would be the prototype grudge, because it comes with energy recharge. Also, after using your elemental skill, it's going to increase your normal and charge attack. So that's similar to some of the 5-star weapons. However, it does come with energy recharge, so you're kind of striking a balance between some of the effects. Also, the Favonius Lance is also another really good option, because if you build her around crit rate, you're also getting energy recharge from the Favonius Lance. So basically, she would be an extremely good sub DPS that's going to do good cryo burst damage. So like you could pair that with someone like D-Luke and have her as a sub DPS, or you could use her as your main DPS if you happen to get many constellations on her. And so you could use her along with Zhongling and actually be able to do melts with Zhongling and cryo procs with her. I also think that you could pair it nicely with Electro characters, because one of the artifact sets actually increases your superconduct damage by 100%. But that might change from 100%. But 100% is a good buff to something like that, especially if you are using the negatively attracted reaction of cryo versus electro. So, but this could also be good as a sub DPS, considering if you use someone like a Razor as your main DPS, you could swap over to her real quick, do a superconduct, something like that, or apply them first and then superconduct with Razor, use his ultimate there. And what you'd actually be able to do is, since they're weakened to physical damage at that point, Razor would get a big massive boost to his physical damage. So I think there's definitely options for either main DPS or support DPS. Artifacts, a few to note, are the Noblesse Oblige. If she is a sub DPS, this would be very good for boosting your main DPS's attack and also her DPS. Also, but the Blizzard Strayer set is also going to increase your crit damage on enemies affected by cryo, so this would be good if you use her as a main DPS. Also, Glacier and Snowfield, this is the one I was talking about earlier. This one will increase your superconduct damage, melt damage, and also using Elemental Burst increases your cryo damage by 30%. So on top of 30%, you're also getting 10% if you have max Constellation for her. However, we also don't know her passive talents or her talents, and if any of those actually boost your attack, which would lead her more to a sub DPS role versus a main DPS, or if they just boost your attack damage and attack rate. That would make her more of a DPS. I'm trying to gain some subscribers. I'm currently at 280. I'm trying to get to 1,000 because then I can become the absolute whale. Get a lot more of these characters when they actually release, make more build videos on them, more so than just stats and review videos. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's been your boy Arctic Phoenix. I'll see you all on the next one. Farewell.